Mark first told me about his dream to do this, and I was like, all right, let's do it. And I do not live close. I live an hour and a half away at least. And I didn't know I would be part of that. I was just encouraging him because that's part of what I do. And to see this and all of the people that we're serving and helping through this is just a gift. Like Mark has said, it really is a gift just to serve and love people. So, and then to Pastor Dan Nold and the Calvary Church that we are sitting in, thank you so much for your donation and everything that you have done. So let's have a round of applause for them.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Maria Montero. I'm the secretary of the Reentry, and I'm one of the founding members for this organization. When Mark first approached me and said, hey, what do you think of this idea? It's like, sometimes you'll hear something and you're like, from God's lips. And that's how I felt about Mark's commitment to helping individuals re-enter and be productive and helpful and wonderful people in our society. So I just wanted to thank you for that. And I also wanted to thank a lot of the dignitaries that are here tonight with us this evening. And I have the pleasure of sitting at the table with Rob Reed. Rob Reed works with our Attorney General's office, Michelle Henry. Rob, you have a lot of things that I'm going to read off, but I'm going to start off by saying he's the Executive Deputy Attorney General for Special Initiatives. He's part of a very important program called, he's a chair of Pennsylvania Reentry Council, and, right, you told me, amen. And he's also one of the leaders of HEAL PA. So Rob, thank you so much for joining us. I'd like to also thank Steve Dersham. He is the Central County Commissioner. Thank you. And the Central County Court of Common Pleas is being represented this evening by our Judge Katie. And of course we have our founder. We have Mark Fraley. If he could please come up to the stage. And Mark, you literally have just your value increased dramatically because you have your beautiful wife here also. And so come on up.
Real quick second. Also, there are so many people, but our church family, I'm going to cry. Our church family that is here, thank you for your support. And our biological family, my mom is here, Mark's sister Mary Beth is here, and between us we have 6 children, and we have 3 of our daughters. 3 of our 6 children are here. So thank you guys for, and they did come far. Yes, they did come far. Thank you so much for your support. We really appreciate it. Are you going to talk? Or should I just also mention one more important thing? Besides the fact that, what do you think? Should we sing? It is Mark's 60th birthday.
Birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Mark. Happy birthday to you.
Yeah, thank you. This wouldn't be a reality without Betsy. Had no idea what she was getting into when we got married in October. She's definitely a partner in this. Most days, a lot of days, she gets more calls from people than I do, which is I wanted to take a minute and just share with you what Go Reentry is. So we're a faith-based, and let me explain that so everybody's clear. We're founded on biblical principles. That doesn't mean we won't help the person that believes in the oak tree out in the front yard. We help anybody and everybody that comes, we have and we will. But we're faith-based. based on biblical principles, and we're a nonprofit. The background for Go Reentry starts about 2,000 years ago, maybe a little longer. Jesus was in the temple court, had a packed house, probably a lot like this, but everybody was there, and he was teaching, he was talking. And these Pharisees came. Pharisees are the kind of guys you like love to hate kind of guys. They're the guys that can see a toothpick in your eye but ignore the law that's sticking out of their own. They're the kind of guys that step on people to push them down so they can feel more important about themselves. But these Pharisees come together, they interrupt Jesus while he's talking, and they present this lady to Jesus. And I can't help but to think they announced it very loud and very proud. They say, Jesus, we caught this lady in the act of adultery. In the book of Moses, or the law of Moses, it says we should stone her. What do you say? And Jesus just ignored him for a bit. Maybe while we're picturing him ignoring her, let's talk about the lady for a minute. She was caught in the act of adultery, having sex. I don't know when, I don't know how, but she was caught. And she didn't walk to Jesus on her own free will. I don't know if they drug her by her hair or carried her or how they got her there, but they took her there. And I wonder if they let her put her clothes on. I wonder what her hair looked like. I wonder if her makeup, if they had makeup 2,000 years ago, was running, right? I wonder what her posture was. I just wonder, she's standing in front of the whole town, and adultery then was a capital offense. I just wonder how she was feeling inside. So she's standing there, and these Pharisees keep asking Jesus, what should we do with her? What should we do with her? And finally he says, stone her. If that's what you want to do, knock yourselves out, stone her. But the person who picks up the first rock and throws the first stone has to be perfect. One by one they left because nobody could pick up the stone. I mean perfect, like never thought a bad thought, never got angry, never went 66 in a 65-mile-an-hour zone, right? Perfect. Not one of them could throw a stone. So it's Jesus and the lady, and he finally says, where are those that condemn you? She says, they're not here. And does everybody know what he said next? This is the first side of the coin for Go Reentry. He says, go and sin no more, right? Reentry, mentioned 2,000 years ago. That's what it's all about. Second chances. Go and sin no more. That's the first side of the coin. Second side of the coin is, again, Jesus is talking, and this attorney interrupts him. And he says, Jesus, tell me what all the law, what's the greatest commandment? And Jesus says, well, that's love God with everything. All your heart, all your soul, all your mind. Just love Jesus, love God with your all. And he said the second commandment is just like it, love your neighbor as yourself. And so the attorney, being an attorney, had a follow-up question. Sorry. His follow-up question was, well, then tell me who my neighbor is. Jesus tells a story about a man who needed to get from Jericho to Jerusalem. It's about a 6-mile hike, and the road has a history of being violent. But the man decides to make the trip anyhow. Maybe he should have gone with other people, or maybe he should have found another route, but he decided to go down the road, and sure enough, he got jumped. He got robbed, he got beaten, he was left laying along the road to die. So a guy comes along, a religious leader, a pastor type guy, and he sees the guy laying along the road. And I would think my pastor would stop and help me out, right? My pastor has. I ran out of gas. I did. And I said, Pastor Zach, I'm just like down the road. So he brought a gas can, and he has this saying. He says, never resist the urge to be generous. So he put the gas in from the gas can in my car and then insisted on filling it up. So I would have thought the pastor walking down the road would have acted the same way. But he saw the guy that was beaten, and he walked to the other side. He just ignored him and he kept going. Another man came down the road, saw the man laying along the road, and he too walks to the other side and ignores him. These men had everything in common with the guy that was beaten up. They were Jewish, and that's what mattered back then. They were similar, and yet they were ignored. Third guy comes along, you know the story. The third guy comes along, he's a Samaritan. Jews hated the Samaritans. You want to talk about race relations now? We don't hold a candle to how the Jews treated the Samaritans. They thought they were lower than life. This Samaritan comes along, and I can't help but think the first thing he thought was, if I was the one laying along the road, the Jewish man would never help me. I can guarantee you that. He'd probably walk over and spit on me. But this Samaritan was different. He got off his donkey, he went over, and he poured oil on the man's wounds. He bandaged him, and he put him on his donkey, and he took him to the inn. At the inn, he tells the innkeeper, you need to take care of this guy until he gets better. And he basically gave him his credit card. He said, here's the money that I have. Whatever it takes, you take care of him. And if you spend more than this, I'll be back and I'll settle up with you. And so Jesus tells that story to the attorney who wanted to know who his neighbor was. And he said to the attorney, so who's my neighbor? And the attorney had to say, well, it was a Samaritan. Do you remember what he said next? Jesus said to the lawyer, go and do likewise. Right? Go and do likewise. What's that go and look like, right? If you go to Matthew 25, and if you do reentry work and you're faith-based and all, we're asked to preach, that's where we go. But in Matthew 25, it tells us what that going looks like. Jesus walks in a room, and he says, you go over that side, and you go over to that side. So he divides the room. He just points at people and tells them where to go. And he said, this side of the room, you're sheep. This side of the room, you're goats. And then it's sheep, you guys are all going to heaven. Goats, you're not. You're going to hell. And they all look at the woman and try to figure out, what did I do to get put in this group? And Jesus says, I'll tell you. When I was thirsty, there was something to drink. When I was hungry, you fed me. When I was naked, you clothed me. When I needed shelter, you took me in. When I was sick, you came and took care of me. And when I was in prison, you came and visited me. That's go reentry. That's go reentry in a nutshell. There's another story I want to tell you before we move on quick. It's not a Bible story. I heard it on TV from West Wing. But I've adapted it. It's my story. There's a man walking along the road, and he's not paying attention. He's like my daughter Colton. She's always on her phone, not paying attention. Walking down the road, she falls in this hole. And this hole was so deep and so wide that this guy can't get out of the hole. He's frustrated. I want out of the hole. So a man walks along, and he looks down in the hole and scratches his chin. And the guy in the hole says, help me out. And the guy shouted back, well, I'm the engineer that built this road. And this hole's not supposed to be here. I'll have to go study the blueprints before I can help you out. And he leaves the guy in the hole. Next guy comes along, he's a pastor on his way to church for a prayer meeting. The pastor looks in the hole and just, again, this is crazy kind of attitude. The guy shouts out at the pastor, says, hey, can you help me out of the hole? And the pastor says, I don't know how to do that. But I'll tell you what I'll do. When I get to church and prayer meeting, you'll be at the top of the list. Third guy comes along. He looks in the hole, and the guy shouts up and he says, help me out of this hole. And before you know it, the guy that was up on the street jumped in the hole. And this guy that's been there all morning is so mad. He said, you're an idiot. Why in the world would you jump in the hole? Now we're both stuck down here. And the guy kind of smiled at him and he said, I've been in the hole before, and I know the way out. Just relax. That's go reentry. Go reentry helps people get out of the hole. And the thing that's unique about us, and not saying this proud or boastfully at all, but 20 years ago I was in the hole. And so there's 7 rungs on our ladder to help people out of the hole. First one is sobriety, because without that, nothing else matters on the ladder. Sobriety, we help people with housing, we help people with employment, we offer support, we keep people accountable, we drug test people, we do class in some county jails that are local, but we offer hope. And that's really what people incarcerated, that's what they really need. They just need hope that they're not, that statistically, let's go back for a minute to the lady who Jesus said, go and sin no more, right? That was a couple stories ago. I wish they'd have told me what happened. Jesus tells her to go and sin no more, and that's it. There's not another verse written about it. But let's apply today's standards to her. Let's see if she was successful. Today's standards, I know this for a fact. 10 out of 10 people leaving jail say this place sucks and I'm never coming back here. The reality is, nationwide, 65% are back behind bars within 3 years. There's just like a huge disconnect. And Go Reentry tries to help with that disconnect. So tonight, we're going to do something. I want to celebrate some people. There are 7 really special people that I want to share with you, and I want them to share with you. And this gentleman and these ladies are extraordinary. I want them to tell you their stories. So you can, and really, I want it to be a celebration. Because the fact that they're sitting up on this stage and they're being interviewed, it is everything. So, if you guys want to come up with the first panel, and I want to turn it over to them.
All right, so obviously, as anybody would be sharing, I'm going to use that. Sharing part of your story is very personal, but also you guys are mostly strangers, so it's going to be a little uncomfortable for them. So just love you guys, thank you so much. So I just met these people today, but I love them. So I am going to start with you, Michaela. So if you could start by just sharing a little bit about yourself and your struggles with substance use disorder and incarceration.
My story is a little bit of the background. My dad was a Hells Angels biker. I grew up nothing but partying. I became an addict at the age of 4 because I was drinking because I wanted to die. I went through sexual assault, being raped at the age of 2, all throughout my whole entire life. So I started smoking cigarettes at the age of 8, and then I quit for 3 years. But I continued to drink. And then at 11, I started smoking cigarettes again and started smoking weed. By the time I was 13, I had a 5th of vodka in me, and I had another 5th in my backpack to go to school. I know nothing but addiction. I've been an addict for 25 years and 29. I just got out of rehab today. And it is the scariest thing. Not to be here in front of y'all telling my story, but it's scary to be here because I have been an addict and it's all I know. I don't know how to be sober. I don't even know how to be a mom sober. I have my kids in CYS's care right now, and that's a drive for me to get them back. But every day, I gotta fight the chemical balance in my brain of being an addict for 25 years. It's not easy just to put down a drug. It's not easy just to put down that drink, because it changes your brain. Your dopamine levels, like my dopamine levels will take over 2 years to go back to normal of 50 milligrams or decibels, liters. And like, I'm happy to be here, but also I feel numb still because of all the drug use.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And I just want to say I'm sorry.
It happens.
So, if you could just share a little bit of what Go Reentry has done for you, and how you think your life might be different if you didn't have Go Reentry.
I have a family now. I have a mom, Betsy, I have a dad, Mark. I know I can count on them. They're the first people in my life to want me to do good, to not want me to do drugs, to not date a drug dealer. They want me to succeed. And they rooted for me while I was in rehab, because I'd call them. Because they're the ones I know I can count on at the end of the day, that if I can't trust myself, I know that I can call them, and they're going to be there. And that's the greatest gift Go Reentry has ever given me.
There it is, guys, right there. Why you are here. Hello? So, you can teach me a lot, right?
Probably.
So, I'm Maria, once again, and the next question I'm just going to be talking about life you and Will. And we're going to start off just with the same question. Just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi everyone, I'm Lexi Lingle. I was born and raised in State College. My story kind of starts at birth, really. I was born into a family of addicts. My mother and father both. Since they both passed away, my father died of cancer in 2015, and my mom died in 2019 to ongoing addiction issues. I was released from state prison in 2018 when I met Mark, and he gave me a job the very day I met him, and he gave me hope and a chance I never had before. I was used to getting out after constant relapse and time and time again in the county, and there was no transportation, no job opportunities, and it was just the same old broken record, same old story over and over. And Mark gave me an opportunity. He gave me work. He picked me up for work, and just showed that he cared like nobody did before, really. During that time, I did relapse once, where I landed back in the county after I had gotten pregnant for the first time and lost my child. Took that pretty hard, so I was using, but since then, I've been clean, and I have a daughter and a son who's 5 months old. My daughter will be 2 years old on Easter Sunday. And I owe Reentry a lot. They've done a lot for me. With them and my church, Access Church, they gave me an awesome Christmas this year. They reach out, they show they care, and we do a lot, and I'm very appreciative for everything that Reentry's done. Jen?
And speaking before, one here. In 2018, you were telling us about like an event that happened, and
Which event?
but that's okay. Well, you know what? Let's just skip that, and we'll just go with, you were talking about Go Reentry and how much they've been able to help your family. Tell us more about that. Like, what are some of the things that help you and your family with Go Reentry?
Well, like I said, the Christmas thing was really big. They're just in constant contact, really. They always ask if I need anything, if they can help in any way. Mark's wife is really great too. Like they were giving me transportation until I got a car, and yeah, he definitely found a good one there.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you so much.
All right, and David. So your incarceration story is a little bit unique. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how long you've been home? Yes, it's okay.
So when I was 14, my mom committed suicide. And from there, I was in a lot of sports, football, baseball, wrestling. I was really good. Won a lot of championships in wrestling. And then I happened to tear my ACL in high school. I got addicted to Oxycontin. And then from there, I started trying huge trouble. I went to the federal prison in Philly for 2.5 years, and that was probably the worst experience I've ever been through. It was really hard. I almost got killed like 3 times, but I fought through it, and I'm still here because of God. I believe that. So I have gotten out. I've been out for about the same 2.5 years now. I have my own apartment, my own home. I have my own car, my kids, and I pretty much run the farm by myself. So it's an organic produce farm.
That's super awesome. I just want to say about that, I know nobody in this room, but the world in general, let's say, that they often think, once an addict, always an addict, or once a criminal, always a criminal. And, there's a lot of reentrants in this room. I am a reentrant, and there's many other reentrants that are in this room that turn out to be very successful humans, especially when they're loved and supported and given the chance to have a different life.
Amen.
So, from selling drugs to manning a farm, how cool is that? That's super cool. I love it. Can you tell us a little bit? Yeah.
Also, too, just like wanted to say, for all of you folks to open up like this is not easy at all. And I just want to say how thank you. Because it takes a lot of bravery and courage, and also to know how to be able to shine a light, because evil cannot exist in light.
So can you just share about your experience since you've been home and your involvement with Go Reentry?
So I've actually been clean for about 6 years now. But that had to do with, partial prison. But anyway, so Mark has helped me. I met Mark through my sister, actually. My sisters are like very supportive of me. And so Mark, helped me get out of not really get out, but he helped me proceed out of federal prison to get home. And without Go Reentry, I don't know if they would have released me. I still had to be in a program. So he talked to the judge and gave me a chance to kind of get my life back on track and look forward to something. Look forward to having my kids again and beginning their lives again. And the Go Reentry really situation was amazing. He introduced me to church. Access Church is very wonderful that they helped me with a car. that I love the church. It's very, the people there are very caring about you, and they support you. And Mark and his wife was very helpful with me, and they took care of me.
Thank you so much. All right, panel one.
Actually, we have a brilliant moment.
Okay,
So, we're just having
I just wanted to share that I work in housing transitions, a shelter downtown now. We help homeless people get housed. A lot of times they're going through a lot of difficult situations themselves, families, sometimes just single people, but children. Right now we have a house full of children, so that always brightens the place up. But, so that's been a great opportunity. Not sure what's next, just taking it one day at a time.
Full circle.
One of the best ways for people, I think, in recovery and just to heal from childhood trauma or just trauma in general is to serve. But a lot of times we aren't given the option to do so because of our criminal background. So even just keeping that as in your minds of, giving the opportunity for people to just get involved, because usually doors are shut in our faces a lot, and it just reiterates that hopelessness and that worthlessness that a lot of times that we experience as children. So thank you guys so much. I appreciate it. Round of applause. So you can come on down.
Hi, and so I'm going to start off with just asking Jada to tell us a little bit about. Hi, everybody. It's Jada.
I used to live around here, but I moved away. But a little bit about my story. When I was 12 years old, I moved out to Minnesota with my mother. And out there, I was kidnapped and I was sexually assaulted. The person that did it was like planning on killing me. I was drugged, just some horrible things happened. So I ended up escaping, and I come back to Pennsylvania, and from like 12 years old on, I was so self-destructive. I had no self-love. I just didn't really care about myself anymore, and that continued well into my 20s when I first started experimenting with, drugs from 12 years old on, and it got just worse and worse. So in 2018, I lost my boyfriend to an overdose. He died in my arms, and I went to jail. I was in there for a year, and my lawyer asked me if I would write my story out and share it with the judge and the DA and everything, and let them know, I just needed help. So here I am in my jail cell, writing my story out, and something just clicked with me, and I realized by me still living my destructive life and not having any self-love, that I was still giving that man power over me as an adult. That happened to me when I was 12 years old. So from that moment on, I refused, and I said, I'm not going to let this happen anymore. I've been clean since October 8th of 2020. So when I met Mark actually while I was in jail, and we would talk on the phone, and he would tell me he was going to help me, with a job. And when I got out, he did. I worked for his workmanship. Him and Betsy both are wonderful people. They're like family to me. Without them and without their support, I feel like I wouldn't be where I am today, because that has a lot to do with, I feel like, struggling addicts. They don't have support. They don't have a solid support system. and they just fall back into their old ways, or surround themselves with just negative things. So I'm thankful for that, and I just bought a house here a year ago. I moved out of the area, and life is good.
So Jada, one thing you were talking about is having that revelation that you could determine your own destiny. And I think what was most important is finding your self-worth and how important you are and how loved you are. And I just wanted to know, can you tell us a little bit more about finding your self-worth?
I guess it was really learning to get to know myself, like the sober Jada, not the one that was numbing the pain every day and trying to escape those demons, but facing them and dealing with them and coming to terms with, yes, that happened to you, but that's not how your life has to be today.
All right, next we have Nikki. I think as a person in long-term recovery, I can say the hardest thing about being in recovery initially is getting over the uncomfortableness of feeling feelings. That is the most torturous thing, and that I would say is probably one of the #1 reasons why people relapse, usually early on, because we've been numbing ourselves for so long that we don't know what to do with those overwhelming feelings. So we have Nikki up. Thank you so much for joining us. Hello. So if you can tell us a little bit about yourself and your struggles.
Sure. My name's Nikki. I'm from Clearfield. I'm 32 years old. I've been incarcerated twice. I've been out almost 6 months now. Almost. Pretty much all my trouble, I can tell the story, but all stems from addiction. I lost my parents when I was very young, and then had, the grief, and then other traumas, abusive relationships, things, and it just, I used to pride myself on being this high-functioning addict, and I was until I wasn't anymore. And one day I said I'd get my kids something to eat, and I didn't come home for a month. This is what happened. That, it's still a struggle. You need help. You really do. And that's one of the things with Go Reentry. They, besides give you your own self-worth, like she had said about, helped me believe I was worthy of help. Because jail is very dehumanizing. That was the first time in a long time that I just felt worthy of help and could accept it. And I'm doing well today. It's still a fight. It really is. People think with jail, it's just that period of time and then you're free, but the work really begins when you're released. It really does. It means you need help. I have 4 children. My baby's 5 months old. I had her 2 weeks after I was released. That was a tough time. But I have custody of her. We're getting custody of my other children at my own home. Through the help of Mark and Betsy. They helped me when I had nothing. They got me a crib for my baby. Helped me with so many things. And it's been nothing but a blessing, really.
Thank you so much for that. So talking about those early issues of getting out, can you speak just a little bit more to what you felt were the biggest barriers and that you're still struggling with? Because six months is still relatively new, and so what continues to be some of your struggles, and how has reentry, with like Christmas and stuff assisted you?
Yes, it's a struggle, especially with sobriety. It's a daily struggle. But even since I lost my parents, it's nice to have an adult root for you, somebody in your corner. Once you get in trouble, everybody treats you as waiting for you to get back into it. There's no expectation. But it's nice to have people that have an expectation of me, that will help me, support me through that. Absolutely, it's just someone in your corner. I guess the biggest struggle, even, I was in a position before I met Mark and Betsy. When I left jail the first time, I walked on foot. I had no phone. I had nobody to call, nobody who cared, and then you have your housing. here and there, but how are you supposed to get there at the time? A lot of times you go to jail, you lost your job, you lost your car, and you have to be all these places, and it's not easy, but you have good people that care, and like I said, feel worthy of the help that is available.
Thank you so much.
You mentioned something about the Christmas program, and I was not able to see it in person. Were you able to experience that?
Yes, I did.
Tell us about it.
Oh, absolutely. It was great. For one, I mean, everybody loves a Christmas party, but for me, getting out, it's the first place I got to take my children since being incarcerated, so it was the first opportunity I got to really feel like a mom again. And you get out of jail, I was broke, I didn't get them presents, but through the help of Reentry and the community, they had presents. And it was even just telling them, hey, we're going to go do something fun, and follow through, and was able to do that for them. Something just have to follow through, people care, and take them somewhere, with all the joy that entails. It was really special.
So when we were speaking previously, because I just wanted to connect and get to know the ladies a little bit better, Nikki, it meant so much and helped me understood that you were saying, like, thinking about the Go Reentry Christmas party was almost like a goal.
Oh yeah, it was like almost a milestone for me even, that it's stay sober, stay out of trouble, you can get to Christmas. You've let your children down with so many things, you promised them, you're going to take them to meet Santa, these presents, just get to Christmas. And I was able to. Thank you.
And Crystal.
Hello.
Hello, darling. She's so fashion forward. So, Crystal, can you share a little bit about yourself?
I'm Crystal Park. I am currently the cellar dweller at Mark's house. I live in his basement. I know it sounds weird, but it's actually really nice down there. I'm 33 years old. I was born and raised in Buffalo, New York. I had a pretty rough upcoming. Before the age of 5 years old, my sister, my brother, and I were all sexually abused. My mother was an addict, and she was on welfare, and we were home hoppers. We would live in a place for like 2 months. My mom would sneak out in the middle of the night, use the system to get into another place, and so we moved around a lot. My mother, being an addict, we got exposed to a lot of people that we probably shouldn't have been exposed to. We got locked in rooms. My brother lit the house on fire one time while we were locked in that room. We were put with other kids whose parents were doing drugs with my mother. One of which, whom was very close to me my whole life. We went through everything together, and he died. He took a bunch of Xanax and drank a 40 and smashed into a bridge and went through the windshield a few years back. But I went into the foster care system when I was 5 years old, and I stayed in the foster care system. I actually met a really amazing woman. Unfortunately, she couldn't be here tonight. She's 76 years old, and she's in Buffalo, and she's not gonna drive, not that far. But she was amazing. She showed me what life on the other side could be. But unfortunately, when I was 11 years old, I got taken from them and put with my father. We lived in projects and in trailer parks, and pretty much all the odds were against me, but yet I wanted to do better than my sister, who was a career prostitute. I wanted to do better than my brother, who was federally wanted as a drug dealer. I wanted to do better than all of those. I didn't have a baby by 17. I graduated high school. I was on the right track. I was trying against all odds just to do better. And when I was 17, I got into a relationship. It was abusive, and I ended up not being able to finish high school. So instead of, my father gave me the ultimatum. He was like, either you live here and you finish school, or you can leave. So I left. Because, me and my boyfriend loved each other so much. And in doing that, I got into a lot of situations that I probably shouldn't have been in. I got an assault with a deadly weapon because I was defending myself in the ghettos, and I called my dad because the police were gonna call him anyway, and he packed up a bag and he told me he had terminal cancer and that he was gonna drop me off at a ministry in Reynoldsville and told me to make something of myself before he died. So I went there with a backpack full of stuff, no phone, no money, no anything, and this ministry, they were amazing. They helped me out greatly. I went to Penn State. I met my husband. I had children. I got divorced. My dad died in 2015. And once my dad died, I kind of just spiraled from there, because after my dad died, this was also after the boy that I grew up with, he died. My current boyfriend hung himself in my house, and I found his body. And that was really traumatizing for me. And so somebody who had never did drugs their entire life, I went from zero to heroin addict overnight. And I got remarried. He overdosed in his mother's house and died. And then just recently, a couple days before Thanksgiving last year, with my boyfriend after that, he also overdosed while I was incarcerated and died. So it's been quite the battle. But while I was incarcerated, I fought tooth and nail with that. I was not about it. I was like, no, I'm gonna get out, I'm gonna do my thing, I'm not gonna change. There's too much trauma. There were so many excuses I was using. But in the midst of all of that, I started going to the reentry classes with Mark, and he said, where are you gonna go when you leave? I said, I don't know. He goes, how are you gonna get there? And I was like, well, the cops took my license for 5 years because I got into a high-speed chase and got taken down at gunpoint. I was under the influence. But he goes, do you have any support? And I said, no. And he said, okay, we'll take care of that. And I'm like, who is this guy? Okay.
Let me ask you this question. How was the reentry able, because you talked about it seemed just like roller coaster, chaotic. How was Go Reentry in helping and creating a foundation for your life?
Go Reentry completely changed the game for me. Go Reentry, I'd only met Mark twice. I got transferred to Elk County, which was outside of where he normally taught classes, but I called him from Elk County, and I was like, if there is a God, if this guy actually shows up, I'm gonna do the right thing. I swear. And I shit you not, like, he showed up. He showed up, and he was like, okay, we're gonna get you out, we're gonna get you a phone, we're gonna get you on your way. And I'm like, okay, this is all escalating so quickly. And whenever I came time to pick me up, he was there to pick me up. He took me to get a phone. He took me to every job interview. We hit the ground running. He gave me every opportunity that I would have never, ever had if not for him. I did not have parents. I did not have family. I did not have a place to stay. I currently live in their basement, and this morning I'm like, Mom! Betsy's like, yes! And I was like, don't I look so pretty? I was like, do you have any spray? And she's like, yeah, I might go in my room. They're like parents to me. They're parents that I never got to experience. Support I never got to experience. A whole life that I would have never got to experience. So they've been amazing. This whole, even in Christmas while I was incarcerated, my kids, I called my kids and they're like, we went to the Christmas party and guess what I got? And there's pictures of them there. They got a note from me, and it just meant the world. This entire program is so important and so beneficial. We might actually have a chance to win this race. Definitely will we win.
Jesus died on the cross so that we could win. Okay, thank you, panel number 2, so much. Can we give it up for them one more time?
Is this on?
As soon as you start talking, it'll go on. We're just.
I'm sorry, I need to pull up a bit of a cheat sheet on something. So I'm Angela Toohey. And I am used to speaking to people, but not of this magnitude. And it's normally in a different type of gathering. So I have something I wanted to start with, and I just don't want to forget since I'm up here and I'm nervous. Exactly, what I wanted to say. So I'm going to start this off with a little bit of an analogy, okay? That I can't say I found all on my own. I was in a group on Sunday after church at Access Church. That's where I go to. And it is for incarcerated individuals, and it's a support group that Go Reentry has started. And in that group, Frank, he's there somewhere, used this. We have like a devotional and a prayer, and there was an analogy to use. So I have here, I have a $20 bill. How many of you here, raise your hand if I were to give you this, you'd take it, like for sure? Yeah? You'll take this $20 bill? Sure. Okay, so I'm gonna crumple it up a little bit. Sorry, Amy, this is your $20 bill. I'm gonna crumple it up. Okay, I'm gonna crumple it up. I'm gonna, yeah. How many of you would still take it? Yeah, you still take it. Okay, so sorry, Amy. I'm gonna like step on it and rub it into the ground. How many of you would still take it? Yeah, it's still $20, right? It doesn't lose its value. Now, the story called for me to spit on it, but I'm not going to do that. So yes. So the moral of the story there is that at some point in our lives, we have all been stomped on, crumbled up, dragged through the mud, okay? And in the end, we all still hold the same value. And not only that, like especially in the eyes of God, we all hold that same value. And I think sometimes we get lost because of our circumstances, and we need to find our way back. And so, Go Reentry has done that for me. So just to tell you a little bit of my story, I'm going to try to abbreviate some of it. It didn't actually start until a few years ago. So I was a teacher for more than 25 years. I grew up in a fantastic household family, on a farm. Actually, just a few miles away from where Mark grew up, which is very ironic, okay, because there's nowhere near here. It's like, who would have thought that? Small world. And I had great parents, and my mom, Nancy, is out there watching right now. And I have 3 sisters and a brother. And one of my sisters, Melissa, is out there too. So they're here to support me, and they've never heard me speak like this. So, all the things. I did all the things. I was a good student. I went to college. I have degrees, and I have certificates in French, English, and Latin, and a master's in Latin from Penn State. I taught, that's what I mainly taught that whole time that I was teaching. And then around 2020 or so, I have 2 children. I have John. John is 20, and he is currently in Philadelphia at St. Joseph's University. And I have a daughter, Maria, and she's 23, and she graduated from Catholic University of America in DC last year, and she's now currently at George Washington University in DC for her graduate work. And I was getting to the end of that time, and I felt as though, my daughter had gone to college, my son was now driving and ready to be done too, and here I was in a very unhappy marriage, and thinking, wow, I'm losing my purpose. I'm losing my purpose. So I started getting depressed and things like that, and the unhappy marriage wasn't helping the situation. And in 2020, it was like a perfect storm for me. Not only did I have the unhappy marriage, but COVID came, and I was, someone who liked to go to the gym. No longer could I go to the gym. Luckily I was also a runner, okay? So the unhappy marriage, and I had already started numbing that situation with alcohol, okay? So that had already begun. COVID didn't help that either. But I'm not gonna sit here and blame my alcoholism, which I almost have a year sober. So I'm very proud of that, because when you go to AA, you get coins, and I've got so many of those silver coins, and those, the 1, the 2 month, the 3 month, the 4 month, the 5, even up to 6. I have multiples of those, but I only have one that's an 8 month, and a 9 month, and a 10 month. So I'm really happy, and I am not going back there. So those are the meetings I'm used to speaking at and telling this very personal story to. So along with the marriage and along with the difficult situation with COVID and teaching from a laptop at home to a bunch of ceiling fans that I'm watching going around, because the kids are not there, I was running one day, and while I was running, because I do run, it's something I do every day, I was on mile number 1 of the run, and on that mile, back road, I was blindsided, 4 German Shepherds. I turned and I ran, and 3 surrounded me from the front, and the one just jumped on my back to knock me down and was biting and scratching and everything else. So that was it. That was that time in my life where I thought I was going to die. Like, I didn't think I was coming back from that one. So, I don't know, it seemed like eternity, but the owner called the dogs off, never came out and checked on me. And about 30 seconds later, a police officer drove by. And I know everything does happen for a reason, and I really think that someone was watching me that day. And so, fast forward a little bit, yes, that was traumatizing. There were a lot of infections. It was not fun. It was rabies shots. It was a lot. It was all dealt with properly. A few months later, I couldn't sleep. I'm already upset and just depressed and things like that, and I'm drinking more. But when the nightmares came, and the panic, and the sweating, and the drinking escalated to the point where I couldn't stop. So I went to the doctor. I got some medication to taper off, things like that. Well, that wasn't doing the trick either. It just made it worse. I was going through a divorce, a separation. All kinds of terrible things were happening at the time. I just wasn't dealing with it well. I didn't have the skills to cope. And I didn't have God then. I had God, but not like I do now. God wasn't helping me then. I was upset with God. I wasn't using God as something to help me get through it and make me strong. So I decided, after some events, I had some issues with my now ex-husband, that I no longer wanted to live. So I tried to end my life, and obviously it did not happen, but I sure made an impact on my family, namely my son and my daughter. Who still don't talk to me. So, okay, moving on from that part. It was tough. They were told I wasn't going to live. They were told all kinds of things. I was on a ventilator for 4 days, and after I was flown to Pittsburgh. And then a month in the psych unit at that same hospital. Getting my physical and mental, self in order. Not my spiritual self, though, and not the alcoholism. We were working on other things. So I left there in a much better place, away from the ex, or no, it was an ex-husband, I was divorcing him, and got an apartment near where I was teaching. Everything was kind of back to normal, but it wasn't. There was a huge hole. So every time a milestone would come around, a birthday, you know what I mean, I went down the rabbit hole. That's what I always called it. And this is where my family came in. Because I have another sister, she's not here right now, she's a little further away. You know, if it didn't happen once, it happened a million times. She'd come and find me after 3 days of no one hearing from me because I was, you know, completely, I was passed out. And I just remember waking up with her in my face, Angela, what are you doing to yourself? And taking me then off to rehab. And I went to rehab 6 times. And I'm so not ashamed of that. And the rehab that I went to the most, because I went to a few different ones, was St. Joseph's in Port Matola. And they're here tonight, somewhere back there. And I'm going to tell you right now, it's faith-based also, and that is where I did the hard work. Not the first few times I went. It took a little while. 30 days, people, like they said earlier, doesn't do it. But either way, I did the hard work there. There was one point where I stayed 2 months. I needed it, okay? And I'm going to say I credit a whole lot of where I am right now. I mean, not only with Go Reentry, but with St. Joseph. And moving on from that. So if I were to use this other $20 bill, you know, to be the analogy of my own life, you know, the first 45 years of it were this. They were great. And I loved being a mom. I loved being a teacher, you know, all those things. But then in 2020, it was this. It was getting there. And so several times rehab, having to take off some medical sabbaticals for school. I got 3 DUIs in a month. I got 2 in one night. Yes. And so that first one was in Center County. I live in Phillipsburg, by the way, so there's a line right there of the counties. I was lucky enough to get one first in Center County, and then I crossed the bridge later on that night and got one in Clearfield County. And then a few weeks later, I got another one in Clearfield County. So that brings me to why I'm here. So my attorney told me, you know, you're going to have to go to jail. There's a mandatory. And I'm like, well, what is it? And he said, for 3 DUIs, a year. And I'm like, almost fell over. So I was like, okay. He said, but there's good news. I'd like to get you into this program in Center County. And I said, okay, great. Yes, let's do that, because it's 3 months institutionalized. And then after that, you get to wear one of these great ankle monitors. Very fashionable. I love it. It's black at least. I wear a lot of black. Okay. And it also has this great little monitor inside it that detects if there's any alcohol in my body. So I am very grateful the Center County accepted me into that program. And I fought hard to get in there because Clearfield didn't really want to let me go. So I'm there now. I'm being held very much accountable. But if I would not have gone to Clearfield County Jail just for my time for 5 months, I would not have met Mark Fraley. And that whole part where I stepped on the $20 bill and maybe spit on it or put it in some mud, that was Clearfield County Jail for me. So that was tough. That is the most dehumanizing. The girls were right when they stood up here and said it's so dehumanizing, and you're at the lowest of your low. And my sister Melissa, who's out there, took care of all of my affairs while I was in there, because you have no control over anything. And one of my good friends there that I was a cellie with, and I was also a cellie with some of these other girls that were here, said to me, Aunt, you need to come to this class. Come on, you need to come to this class. And let me tell you, I just got there. So I was really low. I was feeling low. And I said, why? What do I need? What do I need Reentry for? I know how to write a resume. I know how to, get out here and get a job. I can do all that, I don't need that. No, come on, you'll really like Mark. It's the best class I've ever had, even in school, anything. And I said, okay, well, this guy must be something. So I went. And the first day there, it was like instant, like, oh, I do like this class. I got a manual. I'm one of those people, I had to get something to do, okay. And so I was like, okay. So what I want to say about Go Reentry in my life, I had a job before I left jail, okay. I was welcomed into Access Church, and I have a whole new family. And not just those people too. There are other people that came into the jail, okay, like Jane. And I don't have a driver's license for 5 years. So, there are a lot of people out here that give me rides, a lot of people that help me. And I'm so happy that I'm in the program. I've said it a million times, but I'm so happy to be in Center County program. It's great. They believe in getting you, moving you forward and not backward. So, I think I've said everything I wanted to say. It's hard to tell your story. So, all right, now I can see you all.
And like I said earlier, she was our #1 volunteer and did the most work than anybody else. Real quick.
So we're running just a few minutes behind. Please just be patient for a few extra minutes while we get through the rest of this. My experience was 20 years ago, and I'm not going to tell you the whole story. But when I went to jail, I'd been a chief of police, I'd been a police officer, I'd been a pastor, I'd been a college volleyball coach. And then 20 years ago, I did something I shouldn't have, and I ended up in jail. My first full day in jail, I was put in a room and I was attacked and beaten by somebody I'd arrested, unconscious. It was on Channel 6, Channel 10, Channel 13. Tribune Democrat, Altoona Mirror, Center Daily Times, everybody knew my business. I couldn't have been more ashamed and embarrassed. All the kids I had in youth group, all the people in the churches that I pastored, the women on the volleyball team that I coached, the police officers that I hired, the judges I worked with, the DA that I worked with, I was embarrassed. Shame. But so many people died. My dad disowned me. And my daughters, 1,000 miles away, just were so embarrassed. It was a low point. There were 2 ladies in Tyrone who made sure I had the Tyrone, what's it called, the Herald, whatever it is. Had the newspaper every day, which was a big deal. Got cards, they were important. But there were 2 guys that came into jail every week. Every week. We had church on Sunday afternoons. Luke Martin from Water Street owns a greenhouse. You should go there if you need greenhouse stuff. Jesse Burko, who's here tonight. Jesse would drive an hour to jail. He'd spend an hour and 15 minutes, and drive an hour home. I don't know if it was on purpose, but I think Jesse took a little special interest in me. At least that's what I see. That's what it appeared to be. And there was a conversation I'll always remember and I'll always cherish, is when it was so simple. He put his arm around me and said, "You know God still loves you, and He has planned for you, and it's just going to be okay. You'll be all right." And that kind of like changed the trajectory for me. It really, really did. And if it wouldn't have been for those kind words, I'm confident I wouldn't be here tonight. You wouldn't be in this room, and there would be no Go Reentry. One guy made a difference. Real quick, I just want to do this for effect. Lee, just stand up, real quick. How long have you been home?
Less than 6 months.
Less than 6 months working full time?
Yeah.
That's all you're doing. Missing church because you're working. So you're working, you're doing the right thing. Where's everybody else at? Real quick. Minnie, how long you been home? Had some job interviews lined up. It's awesome. April, where you at? How long you been home? How long sober? Awesome. Eric, what did they call you when they arrested you back in
Public enemy number one.
What was it?
Public enemy number one.
Public enemy number one, right there.
This guy. Who welcomed y'all through the door today?
Where are you working?
I work at Penn State University.
Anybody that's been touched by Go Reentry, please just raise your hand.
Stand up.
Parents,
Stand up.
I really didn't want to do that for that. I wanted to do that for Jesse. So Jesse took a rock and he threw it in the Huntington County jail pond. And look what happened. 20 years later, look what's happening. One man, right there, took a rock and he threw it in a pond. And look at the ripple effect 20 years later. So I wish we had a budget where I could buy him a car. Or a Rolex. I wish I could give him a check for $1,000. I just have a rock. It says, go do likewise. We need more Jessies. Can you come get this rock? This guy right here. Okay, thanks. Be seated. We're not done, just about. This is my reward. So, at the end of the day, I really want you to make a donation to Go Reentry. That's like the purpose of this. But not really. I want you to take a rock and I want you to throw it in the pond. And I want you to cause it. So at your table, the rocks are not to throw at me. I want you to take a rock. I want you to put it on your desk. I want you to put it on your dresser. I want to put it where you can see it. And I want you to be reminded you need to make a splash. One guy caused all that. I don't mean to call him my buddy. But Greg, am I right? Yeah. Jesse meant the world to us. And so one rock causes all that, all those ways. Make your way, right? So I'm going to call up the people that are, I don't know who's next. I think they're going to tell you, oh, yes. Reverend Yates, sorry. just as we close, I asked him to pray for Go Reentry. I want him to thank God for Jesse. I want him to pray that God would open our eyes to ponds where we can throw our rocks. Okay?
Thank you. Would you do me a favor and take your rock in your hand and stand up with me while we pray? More challenging for you, isn't it? Let's pray together. Father God, we are just touched this evening by the stories we've heard, the lives that have been affected by those that came before us that thought enough about your kingdom, about your work here, to dare to do something, to be the hands and feet of Jesus. Father, we thank you for Jesse. We thank you for those that also went and did likewise because of his good work, and continue to do that, Father. We thank you for those who are able to reach into corners of this world that we may not have access to. We can partner with them. Father, we thank you so much for this ministry, what it has meant to so many people. And Father, we believe that it will be something that has ripple effects that get larger and larger as time moves forward. More and more people affected by this, touched by the hands and feet of Jesus through the people who volunteer as well as those who support them. So Father, as we consider how we can use our rocks this evening, we pray that you would place before us the door that we need to go through, the place that we're needed most. That you would help those of us who can fund and write checks, Father, to do that this evening, not because we want attention for ourselves, but because we want others to experience your love and your grace as well. Father, keep healing in the ways that only you can do that. Keep equipping your church, Father, to be the people that you have called us to be in this world. And Father, we pray for those opportunities to encounter good people like we've heard from tonight, Father, to just walk alongside them and help them the way Jesus did. In his name we pray. Amen. Amen.
You can be seated. Thank you.
All right, so I don't think I have to tell you all the reasons why you should support the work that we do. Obviously, this stuff that we do does come at a cost, and we wish that, don't wish everything was free. The most powerful thing that we do give away, as you heard from the testimony, is hope and love. But we also need, in the action of being the hands and feet of Jesus, there are actual things that we need to help provide for all those barriers when people are first getting out, especially for those that don't have any support system and they don't have anywhere to go. So I just thank you for your attention. We will have the silent auction person coming up to do that. So that will be officially the close. What I'm going to say is the envelope that's on your table, there's a bunch of them. If you open it, there are many ways to give. You can write a check. There is a QR code that you can scan that takes you to our website, and you can either do a one-time or a ongoing monthly donation. And no amount is too small. And as for those that tithe, you know how the Lord blesses, even when we don't have much to give. So I just want to say thank you guys so much. It's so important, as you heard, and we will continue to do this work. Mark did this work when he didn't have any money. He just did it. He just figured it out. And that's what we'll continue to do. But by partnering with the work that we are doing, we will be able to make that ripple even greater, that those that we are helping, that they will go on to help more individuals. So Lisa is the other Lisa. One of the other Lisas. There's other Lisas here too. She is just going to read the winners of the auction, and then